Hey guys, today's Cosmic Tea. Give me 1 second. I need to invite my co-host in here. Let me see where she is. There she is. Okay. Olivia, we do this every week. Hold on. All right. We are here. We are live for Cosmic Tea. And I'm just waiting for Olivia. There she is. Hi, love.
Hello.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh.
Every single week, without fail, huh? We
Every
do
week.
this.
I swear, sometimes I'm like, I go live all the time, and then like whenever we're doing this, I'm like, why is this taking so
It's
long?
just our energy, I think. That's the only way that I can explain it. That's how I explain it anyway.
And it's so good. Sorry, do you hear my fountain in the background? Is that too much?
What is it?
Can you hear the fountain running in the background?
No,
Okay.
I can't.
Well, then good. Then I'm just going to use it for my soothing pleasure. Oh my God. So guys, today we're going to talk about facing your fears. Yes.
Yes, we are.
We're going to talk about...
I'm a little fearful of that discussion, actually.
What did you say?
I said I'm a little fearful of this discussion. So this discussion has now become one of my fears, just to be clear. I'm only joking.
I swear, okay, because in the thing with, I'm just going to turn this up. I think fears, and I think a lot of questions that I've been getting is, what do you do when you're up leveling? What do you do when you're on to the next thing, when you've reached one goal? And how do you keep going higher? And I think facing your fears is, I think it's scary for a lot of people. I think that's why many people actually stay in a place more of complacency or settling in relationships, settling for work, not actually doing the thing that fully lights them up. So I think it's really important if we sit and actually share. And what's up, guys, by the way? We so love having you here. Welcome to another week of Cosmic Tea. We normally do this every Wednesday, 12 p.m. Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific. But with my travels and with Olivia's travels the past 2 weeks, we've kind of had to improvise. So thank you for working with us here. And we're so excited. We love we love all the DMs, all the messages, how our audience has grown, how it's from everywhere. What's up, guys?
Hey, everybody.
The audience, the global audience is like so amazing.
It's unbelievable, really.
Yeah.
If you would have told me, actually, or told my mom when I was younger that somebody would show up from halfway across the world to listen to me talk, I don't think anybody would have believed that. But this is the most fun thing that I do all week, or one of the most fun things that I do all week.
Thanks, too.
You know, I was thinking about this discussion and us having this discussion, and I thought about a study that I read a long time ago when I was in school. And it was done by Harvard University. And they actually took 2 separate groups of cats. And they raised group A in a room with only vertical stripes and group B in a room with only horizontal stripes. So they raised them and they went about their lives and they did all the normal cat things. And then when they became wise old cats, they switched the rooms. So they put group A in with group B's room and vice versa. What happened was that they found that these cats were running into the walls. They had no idea of spatial distance, of depth perception, of any of those things, even though the dimensions of the room were exactly the same. And so the conclusion was that as a conscious species, animal, human, whatever, although I think it's more definitive for humans because we have ego, right? So cats don't necessarily have ego unless you're a cat owner, then you probably disagree with me, which is why I have a dog as a sidebar. But these cats had made what they determined was a precognitive commitment, essentially meaning that their brains had become so pre-programmed to the world is only filled with vertical stripes, the world is only filled with horizontal stripes, that when they were taken out of their environment and switched, their physiology could not translate into their external environment, which is really fascinating concept. So that's, again, called a precognitive commitment. So what we gain by facing what we fear and by taking ourselves out of our environment is that we do something called NLP, which is neuro-linguistic pathways of our brain. This is important. You're going to want to take notes. So our NLP, our brain's ability to be pliable and to retain the elasticity. So learning new things or meditating or even getting yourself out of your comfort zone. These are all things that not only help you grow as a person, but they've also been contributed to preventing dementia, early onset Alzheimer's, and even just cognitive decline. So that, like, you know, even 38 years old, like the things that I find myself forgetting, you know. So this is a really powerful statement, I think, scientifically, about how our precognitive commitments, or the things that we have told ourselves we are afraid of, we can't do, that the limitations exist therein, really not only are affecting us in terms of our emotions and in terms of course, our goals and our dreams and all of those things, right? Actually physiologically stunting the pliability of our brains to grow and develop. So I started thinking about that study, and it was something that impacted me, obviously, greatly enough many years ago. I won't say how many, but enough, that I still have it and wanted to share it today. So that's my sort of opening statement on how fear actually wraps its grip around our physicality as well as our mentality. So again, it really originates in that precognitive commitment, into that mental belief. So we've talked about this forever, right? So you go into a situation and you've already determined it's going to be negative, it's going to be positive. I can't do this because of X, I can't do this because of Y, I can't do this because of Z. So the first step in unraveling fear is to lose the story that you've been telling yourself. The first step in fear is to open up a greater invitation to your fear. Is there. It's a real thing. Nobody's denying that. But your fear may actually contain more information that's useful to you than harmful.
I love that. I love the dialoguing with the fear. So I think it's so important to know the scientific research. I think that that's like, and I love the easy applicable tool of just like, what is it that I want? But, and why am I afraid of it? Like, what's really here? And guys, I think it's so important to really ask yourself, why do you have the belief sets that you do? Why, what are the limitations? Like, I was with one of my girlfriends yesterday. She's amazing, Dr. Maritza Snyder. And she just did a whole, another one of her books on.
Wait, you're friends with other girls that are doctors?
I know.
Because I'm a little bit jealous.
You should be. I know. But
We'll
no
talk
one
about
tops
this
you.
after, okay.
No one tops you. We'll talk. We'll talk. And she was saying, you know, and we were talking about limitations, and she was just saying, she's like, yeah, I always had this limiting belief, and my mother would always say to me, you can have it all, you just can't have it all at one time. And I'm like, I've heard that so much. And, you know, that whole debate, like, do you actually believe that you can, or is it that this? And other people would go, well, you can, but blah, blah, blah. And you have to and one at a time. And she's like, well, I'm having it all, and I'm having it all right now. She's like, you know, I'm 42, I have a baby. I just launched my book. The book launch is going great. And we were talking about it, and it was the concept of, she had to shift her consciousness. And I think that's what it's about. It's first, guys, all change starts with awareness. So if you recognize that there's things, so I believe fear has different stages. So I'll wrap up that loop there with her, which is really recognizing, one, what is the awareness around the belief that I have? Who did it come from? For her, it came from her mother. And she heard it all the time, but it never felt like her truth. Right? So internally, if something triggers you and you're kind of like, or if you're just going along with it, ask yourself, is this my truth? Is this actually mine? Or whose? And so a great question to ask, Byron Katie always teaches this, whose voice is this? Whose voice is this? Whose voice is this? Is this my father's? Is this my mother's? Was this a teacher? Is this a sibling? Like, is this my truth? Because you get to create your own playbook. Remember, the reality that you see is the reality that you create. That's the bottom line. So whatever you want to believe will be what is. And I know that can seem kind of like esoteric, and it's like, wait, what? But really, when you start to ground into that, you're like, oh, okay, wait a minute. Everything that I'm operating from is the construct of my own mind, my own set of beliefs. What truths do I want to hold? And when it comes to fears, I truly believe there's those simple fears, like a fear of heights, or like a fear of, you know, like I don't want to go it alone, or like just these things, like I'm just whatever. But then there's those fears where you actually have a dream that feels really big, and it's a fear of failing, a fear of letting go of that. And there's those fears that can feel, you actually can feel massive resistance around them. And underneath all of that resistance lies information for you, like Olivia was just saying. And it's really important to not just keep procrastinating or going into like, I'm just not taking action and what's wrong with me, and coming down on yourself, but actually pausing and going, okay, what's here? Like, what is on the other side of this fear? What would happen if I was a yes to this? And why, what is this fear coming up for me? Let me really get grounded in what is going on for me. Is this even mine? And if it is, what would happen? What am I so afraid of? Because oftentimes, as we're animals by nature, there's a survival that's been instilled in us, this way of being. And should we choose another way, it actually feels like a part of us is dying off, and it can act like we will have a physical response to it. And that can feel like that wall of resistance where we're just like, and so often, so many just get down on themselves, and they're like, I keep doing this. I keep saying that I want to lose the weight, but I'm not. I keep saying that I'm going to go for this. I keep saying I'm going to really start this year. I'm going to make this much money, or I'm going to go for that new job, or I'm going to start this new thing, and I never do. Instead of condemning yourself, we really want to encourage you to get into dialogue and start to partner with yourself and befriend the fear and see what information it has for you.
I agree completely, as I usually do, because you're a brilliant woman. But, you know, I would even take it a step further and talk about, you know, the cellular damage that fear can do to us when, as Melissa said, we're experiencing those fight or flight moments. You know, we're releasing massive amounts of norepinephrine, you know, adrenaline, cortisol. So for those of us that are like so aesthetically like, oh my gosh, you don't want to gain weight, or but yet you're carrying around a chronic fear, you're actually chronically releasing inordinate amounts of hormones that are going to disallow you from being able to reach your goal weight. So that's just sort of as an aside, you know, from a biological perspective. But the damage that can be done over time by these hormones is really, it's pretty profound. So when we release these like shots of these hormones, right? So we're getting ready to face the saber-toothed tiger, and we're like, oh, I've got to run, or I've got to fight it. You know, that whole fight or flight. Actually, there's 3 F's, but we won't say the third F, because as mammals, we actually have 3 hormonal inclinations. You can probably guess what the third F is, but this is PG today. So when you release those hormones, it's made to sort of like inject your muscles and inject your body with a sort of like superhuman strength and superhuman speed. But when our brain replays those fears, our body can't tell the difference between whether it's happening for the first time or the 1,000th time. And that's the rub. So we chronically release low dose amounts of these hormones. Again, cortisol, norepinephrine, adrenaline, that damage our cells and damage our cellular structure and our cellular walls. So that can lead to not only premature aging, but it can lead to arteriosclerosis, high blood pressure, even vision, premature vision loss. So there's loads and loads and loads of scientific research that backs that as well. But even if you can't buy into the whole, you know, oh my gosh, fear is, you know, bad for me or whatever, it's doing something negative to your body, and maybe that's a stronger catalyst. So I like to provide people with all the information possible,
I love it.
physiological, mental, spiritual, whatever.
See why we're partners?
Yes, exactly. That's why I get you. So then you get to decide what's more important to you, because maybe the physiological is the most important to you. Maybe the emotional is, maybe the whatever. And the other thing about fear is that when you're faced with it, no matter what it is in your life, like say it's, a fear of your parents dying, or a fear of getting in a plane crash, right? So you're kind of advised to pick the fear that you can control, to work with and try and mold and be, pliable as much as possible. The things, yes, your parents will die. Yes, we all will physically die in some way. But if you're carrying that as a fear, you're actually suffering that loss more chronically over time. You're suffering it 1,000-fold, and it's actually robbing you of the experience of appreciating when they're here with you while we're here. We're doing this earth thing. We're doing this life thing right here, right now. And if you're not in it, then you're out of it and you're missing it. And there will come a time when you want this time back. You will not be able to get this time back. So listen to the words that we're saying, because it's really important. Maybe you can look back at your life and be like, I wasted 5 years, I wasted 10 years. First of all, time's never wasted. But if you have a fear of wasting time, what's the number one thing that you can do to sort of counteract that? Be present, right? You have that immediately within your control. And the same is true for fears that are, again, unchangeable, or fears that are relatively changeable that you have the ability to neutralize. And so that's, that would be my pointers for how to distinguish which fears you can work with and which fears are, they're inevitable. They're going to happen. But you can change the way that you relate to that thought or that belief, and thus change your experience. So again, said this a million times, we'll probably say it a quadrillion more. It's not what you think that matters as much as how you feel about what you think. So the entire power lies in how you relate to your thoughts. People say meditate and they're like, oh, I had this thought and this thought and this thought. And I'm like, well, that's okay. You can have thoughts, but it's how do those thoughts make you feel? And then how can you neutralize those thoughts' grips on you? Because that's what's going to make all of the difference. And that's what's going to literally determine your day-by-day experience, and over time, your life experience. And there will come a day when you're 75 years old and you will have wished that you took this advice. So you're welcome via Instagram.
You are welcome. And that is all for Kathryn. No, I talk about brilliance. So I just love you, and you're brilliant at everything that you shared. And I think there's so much energy that gets wasted in regret and I should have, and it just detracts from the power that you have in today and over yourself. We don't know what we don't know until we know it. And you're not aware because you weren't ready to hear it. So just trust in that, and trust in who you were at that time. You were doing the best that you could given who you were at that time. We all are. And when, again, all change happens through awareness. So, there's a great podcast, Lewis Howes, The School of Greatness, if you're unaware of it. And I love I love when people are always striving to get to the next level and take themselves there and face their fears. And he was sharing something that he did that I loved. And he was saying, he was in a conversation, he was interviewing Jen Sincero. She wrote all the badass
like Girl Habits. Wash Your Face and all of that.
Yeah. No, that's Rachel Hollis. Jen Sincero just came out with Badass Habits.
Yes. Okay.
Badass with Money. I think her first book was How to Be a Badass. Like her whole brand is badass. Badassery.
Okay.
But anyway, he was interviewing her and they were talking about fears. And I found it really fascinating because I think fear is everything on the other side of your fear is your greatest gift. Right? Yes. Like I firmly believe that we're here for our soul's expansion and evolution, that we're here to have a freaking blast. We are here to expand, to express, and to share our unique gifts and talents with the world, whatever that is for you, and to be happy, truly to be happy. It's not to suffer and struggle. I don't think that like you get to some place where they're like, did you struggle hard enough? Oh,
Correct.
okay, you can enter. Wow.
Doesn't earn you extra points.
Yeah, you sacrificed a ton there. Yeah.
Yeah.
You could have done more. But because you sacrificed so much and made yourself feel so awful, you get to go in. Like I don't believe in that. I think it's a kind of like a personally crazy notion. And I'm sorry if I offended anybody by saying that. But
just the entire Catholic religion, it's fine.
Yeah, I was raised Catholic. I fully like gates of heaven, like all the things. All girls private Catholic school way too long. But I will say that, you know, it's truly like you were born specific with a specific message and specific gifts, specific way in which you experience life that nobody else on this planet has. No one else can see through your lens. You get to share that in whatever way that is for you, whether it's starting a business, having a family, like going off on your own pilgrimage, whatever you want. Pilgrimage, that's right, a pilgrimage. But what was going on in this podcast that I really loved was he shared that he makes a list every year, and he's been doing this ever since he was little, of all of his fears. And then he writes what is the opposite thing to do with it. And that is what his focus is for the year, is facing each one of those fears. What would he have to do? Like, so as essentially like reverse engineering, like what would that be? So if you have a fear of public speaking, what you need to do to get over that fear, and each day doing something that where at the end of the year, you're on the other side of that. If you have a fear, if you just think you're really bad with numbers, or you're bad at learning languages, you're bad at, like, he took up, you know, salsa and tango, right? Like, so there's all these different things. And I thought that was such a beautiful way to befriend fear and start to actually look at your life and go, okay, I'm afraid of these things, but they're forward facing. They keep showing up for me for a reason. Like, there's certain things in life that you never take notice of, right? Like that you have no interest in. Like, I don't want to collect seashells. I have no idea where that came from. Do you get what I'm saying? But there's some people that I'm thinking of, like in Florida, like I see these people collecting seashells, and I'm like, wow, this is like something they thoroughly enjoy. Like they cannot wait to look at all of their seashells. No interest in seashells, or horticulture, really. Right? But some people are drawn to that. So like there's certain fears that keep coming up for you where you're like, I would love to do that, but I'm just so bad at it. It's a story. So I love that concept of, what if right now today you wrote down like 3 things that you're afraid of, and you just said, okay, what do I need to do to overcome them, that a year from now they're no longer a fear of mine, but actually something that I do, right? I love looking at life that way and starting to look at how can we take ourselves higher, have more fun, more joy, and learn new things along the way, and find out more about ourselves, because that's about your soul expanding and getting bigger. And it's about you having a different life experience than waking up the same day as Groundhog's Day.
Absolutely. You know, I was also thinking about, actually yesterday while I was driving, that it really is based on this rule system, right? That we are taught these rules by our parents. Some of them are very useful, and most of them are kind of meaningless, right? Because they're subjective to their experience, the times that we were raised in, the environment, the culture, the socioeconomic landscape, et cetera, right? But the moment that you recognize that you really get to write your own rules, is the moment that your life begins. And I know some of you are listening to me and they're like, oh, easy for you to say because you're an entrepreneur and you blah, 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 blah. It doesn't matter. I wasn't always. I was a young student who paid their entire way through college on their own. I was working 4 jobs. I was a young mother. I was starting a business that there was no, turnkey operation. So I wasn't always. So I'm telling you these things from a perspective of all the different versions of myself that I've been. And if I could go back and I could look at myself and I would give myself one pointer, it would be, there are no rules. You get to create your own rules and your own system.
And why didn't someone share this in school? Like,
because school is based on rules. That's
I know,
kind of like
I know. This
when
is
you
why
walk
it's
in the
like
classroom,
homeschool
there's
all
like
the way.
that's kind of one of the like schooly
Okay, I'm not
things
gonna
is
homeschool, but...
rules, right? So, but and
Oh
rules,
wait, try all girls private Catholic school. I was
no,
walking. I think I was always in detention.
no,
Like
I
I think they
couldn't.
put a plaque like on a chair and they were like, detention. You breathed
Well,
wrong. And I was
well,
like, cool.
you're kind of a badass. So,
This is true. This is very true.
but it really is true that you can create and write your own rules. So we think even in terms of business, like it has to be this way, and this is a business model. Every business interview that I've ever done, I've gotten asked the same question, which is,
Oh my God.
what was your business model? I didn't have one.
I'm trying to like get business models out of, I'm like literally extracting strategy so I can just get back to like my own being.
Please, because it does not work, and it never worked for me in my brain. And every business interview that I've done, you know, with like Yahoo Finance and Forbes and all of these big companies, and they're like, what was your business model? And I don't have one. What I did was identify what really lit me up, because here's the key. When you find what lights you up, it's going to be effective, and it can be really profitable if you are disciplined, if you are focused, and if you are steadfast in sort of what you do and you get organized about it. Those are really the key ingredients. But as far as rules, there really aren't any. So in terms of life, in terms of fear, you get to make the rules. So stop telling yourself that story in your head of what you think it's supposed to be, what the rules are supposed to be, and write out, as Melissa said, write out what the opposite of your fear, what's your action plan for your fear. Don't just let it be a thing. Don't just let it be like some thing on your resume of life. That's bullshit. That's weak. Okay? Don't do that. You'll regret it.
You hear my girl?
Yeah, exactly. Like I'm telling you. And
yeah.
So lose the rules or write your own. Make sure they're effective. The rules probably shouldn't be, I'm going to get drunk every day and then try to run a business. That won't work, by the way. But write rules for yourself.
You say that like you tried it.
Effective. I'm going to try it. That's what I'm going to do. That's my next chapter.
Oh my God. I'm so
No, I swear to God, I'm not. But I have a very work-life balance. I have a very healthy, But also, you know, lose the rules. This life is supposed to be fun and engaging and light you up. And if it's not, something is wrong. And that's all. We're done here today, folks.
You're done. I think that's a beautiful note to end on. Create your own rules, face your fears, dialogue with your fear, find out what's on the other side. Can you make a list of your top 3 fears and say, what would you do to make an action towards them, whatever that is for you? Because on the other side of that fear for you is a desire that you have or wouldn't keep coming up. So if you want to keep saying, oh, I'm so bad. Like I did this with singing lessons. Yes. This voice, these vocals. I
voice of an angel.
Love singing. Do not have a good voice. And that's okay. But you can train a voice. And I have to tell you, that is true, and it improves. And I love my voice lessons, and I do.
Well, I want you to sing to me sometime.
Oh my God, you guys! I'm gonna serenade you. I'm gonna serenade you. I'm gonna sing to you when we're in Tulum. It's gonna be great.
Heaven.
It will be heaven. Okay. So guys, thank you so much for being here for another episode of Cosmic Tea. Please DM us anything that you want us to talk about. We have a full list based off of you and the things that you are needing that we will be talking about here each week. So make sure to meet us, myself and Dr. Olivia Audrey. Her children's book is out. You guys have to, and I swear it's good for all ages and adults. You have to get it. Olivia, tell them where they can get it.
So it's available on Amazon. It just got restocked after being completely sold out for about 8 months.
It was top 10 Good Morning America.
Top 10 Good Morning America.
Badass
books you must read.
Lady bomb.
And this is what I do. But I did that because
this is what she does.
I rejected the rules of like.
What was your strategy? I'm just kidding. I'm totally kidding.
Fat goose egg.
Yeah, it was following what felt good, following your passion, everything that you teach, and you got dialed in with what lit you up, and here we go.
Yeah, that's it.
Just
get organized. And you know what? Here's the thing: when you love what you do, when it lights you up, being organized won't feel like a chore. It will be easy. It will be fluid. Even for those of us who may not be organized, but I promise you, Follow what lights you up. Life is supposed to feel good and be fun. And if it isn't, it's time to kind of rewire some things. And you may not be doing it exactly right.
Exactly. So please, please take the steps that we outlined in today's video. You got the scientific backing on fear to understand how it actually feels in your body and what's going on, along with the metaphysical and things that you can do to move yourself forward. So make sure to join us next week for another episode of Cosmic Tea, where we're going to be talking about all the things, and you have to come to find out what it's going to be. Oh my gosh, Olivia, I love you so much. Thank you, everybody, for being here. You guys are the most incredible group of, like, we're in awe of the following that we have for this so much. And we just want to thank you so much for being here. And we appreciate the hell out of you.
I love you all, Melissa. I love you. And we will see you next week.
Bye, guys.
Bye.